In the world of hunters, each mission is a fight for survival. Let's explore the moments of tension and action in this story that mixes magic, monsters, and impossible challenges. Jinwoo, an E-level hunter, is about to face powerful enemies, and with each step, new alliances and complicated decisions arise in his path. But what he doesn't know is that his mistakes may have irreversible consequences. How will he handle the pressure of being the leader of his group? And what will he do upon discovering that his powers are more than he imagined? Don't miss the excitement of this epic journey. Stay until the end, and find out what will happen when he is forced to make choices that will change everything. Prepare yourself for a story of power, sacrifices, and great revelations. It all begins with Jinwoo waking up to a call from his sister, where she reminds him of the time, as today is the school interview. As soon as he hears this, he gets up and in no time, arrives at school completely prepared. So much so that Jina asks him if he really is her brother, as she is not used to his much improved and different appearance from before. And innocently, Jinwoo responds to her that he is clearly her brother, without understanding why she is behaving this way. She comments that it's not that he looks strange, but it's surprising how someone can change so much. Meanwhile, the girls at school start to admire Jinwoo's great appeal, attracting a lot of attention as they walk through the corridors. And, as expected, Jina takes the opportunity to ask if he is dating someone, and if he wants her to introduce him to a friend, but he simply pulls her cheek to make her be quiet. When he sits down with the teacher for the interview, she comments that Jina is a good student, very polite, and has good grades. This makes her an example for others, and the school has a lot of trust in her. The tests indicate that she might be able to get into the medical school she desires, so she doesn't see the need to pressure her further. With that, the meeting could have ended. But there is one question she would like to ask. If he would want his sister to work in the world of hunters, should she ever awaken as one? This surprises him, but without thinking much, he responds that he wouldn't, and asks why. The teacher asks him for a small favor, apologizing for being selfish. Later, Jinwoo meets with Hansen. He shows a photo where he is with his sister, and she intuits that he is Jin-A's brother. Understanding his intentions better, she tells him that it doesn't matter what he heard from the teacher. She is not going to school, much less will she stop being a hunter. In light of this stance, Jinwoo reminds her that she is an E rank, so she won't be able to have a decent life, and her only option would be his attack team. But he considers her a special case. Hansen explains to him that if he came just to argue, it's better to save his breath, and mentions the fact that he is also an E rank. Calmly, Jinwoo tells her that he didn't come to say she should stop being a hunter, and without further ado, asks her to accompany him. For a moment, we see the arrival of Hwang Dong-Soo from South Korea, where the association is located. At the airport, he is greeted by Woo Jin-chul, and upon seeing him, Dong-gu mentions that he didn't expect a welcoming committee from the association. Jin-chul asks him how long his visit will last, to which Dong-gu replies that it won't be long because he doesn't like this country. Despite his curiosity, Jin-chul asks him if he returned to this land he abandoned just because of those two individuals. Dong-gu asks him not to pretend he doesn't know, because what he wants is for them to turn a blind eye and let him do whatever he wants with them in a dungeon, starting with the E level and then the other. He asks if Jin-chul is going to stop him, eager to see him try, but Jin-chul makes it clear that he was sent just to do his job. Now we see Choi talking with Gu, where he informs him about the winged ants that could fly. Despite this, the bodies of these creatures fell into the sea, and perhaps they can't cover great distances, at least for now. With this information, Gu chooses to study them, as it is too early to draw conclusions. Later on, Jinwoo arrives at a portal along with Han, where he meets Sang-mi and Hun, members of the White Tiger Guild's management department. The two are delighted to see him, as they did not expect a request from him. When they see Han, they assume she is the girl he wants to train, and Jinwoo confirms that this is the case. Han explains that he asked for help at a good time, as it was announced that several portals will appear in this area, and a level C portal has recently appeared, which sounds quite interesting. This conversation is interrupted by one of the hunters, who informs them that they need to hurry with the portal ahead. They apologize to him and inform Jinwoo that the hunter is Kim Chu, a level A hunter who acts as a tank. This time it's a practical exercise for the most recent members, and who will support the army as the leader of the attack team. At this moment, Hon mentions that he was a bit annoyed when he heard about the observers, and you can see Kim complaining about being the leader of two level E hunters, referring to Jinwoo and Han. After that, Sang announces that the team is composed of 1 level A, 5 level B, 2 level C, totaling 8, making 10 in total with the level E members. Before leaving, Jun suggests to Jinwoo that he should limit himself to observing in this mission, since the idea is for the newcomers to participate, something he accepts without any issues, as that was his intention in the first place. The moment everyone enters the portal, it begins to undergo an aggressive change. Jin realizes what is happening and immediately grabs Han's hand to try to leave, but the portal invites them to stay. He barely manages to tell Sang to alert the main attack team. When he is forced to stay inside the portal, it doesn't take long for them to inform Baek, the head of the White Tiger Guild, that the C-rank portal has turned into a red portal. This quickly makes Baek understand the seriousness of the situation, so he sets out to go there immediately. Now we see that the team is concerned about the fact that the entrance portal is no longer surrounded by a snow forest. Kim tells them that it is a red portal, and since Hwang doesn't know what that is, Jin explains to him that, unlike normal portals, upon entering a red portal, all communication with the outside is lost. It is only possible to exit by defeating the boss or finding a breach in the dungeon, and they cannot be helped from the outside. Moreover, the monsters in this place are stronger than the calculated level. Suddenly, an arrow is shot at one of the hunters, killing him as it hits his head. On the other hand, another arrow that goes directly towards Hwang is stopped when Jin catches it in the air. They realize that they are ice elves, and Jin, upon analyzing them, considers them skillful, as it is difficult to see them from such a great distance, and it seems they are targeting the weaker ones. At that moment, Kim raises his voice to inform everyone that the red portal is isolated and its level is B or higher, and due to its level, they must follow his guidance to make it out of this mission alive. And even so, he doesn't find it convenient to lead everyone, so they will split into two groups from now on. They decide to take the strongest, denying the opportunity to those of level C or lower. 1 day here is equivalent to 1 hour outside. Whether by defeating the boss or finding a breach in the dungeon, they could spend months here. So it's necessary to lighten the load, leaving the lower level ones behind. A level B girl, Park Hee-jin, asks for permission to stay with the weaker group, and he grants her permission, assuming she does it out of compassion. She approaches Jin to ask if his level is not what he claims, as she saw how he caught the arrow minutes ago, and although he avoids answering, she imagines he is level A or perhaps higher. After that, Kim tells them that the group will continue along the path ahead, while he and the others will head into the forest. As they move forward a bit, Kim points out to his companions the scratches on the trees, which are from ice bears, and therefore he believes that the level E individuals will die. However, upon further reflection, he remembers that this group has a level B and a level C, so he doesn't understand why he considers Jin their leader. At that moment, some ice bears approach, but Kim stays in front to face them without any problems. On the other hand, Park tells him that this forest is ice bear territory and thinks it's dangerous to proceed through there. But Jin explains to him that this is precisely why they took this path. If it's ice bear territory, it means they only need to worry about them when leaving. Much better than dealing with the intelligent ice elves. She agrees, as it makes a lot of sense. Jin then mentions that the temperature in the grove is very low and takes out some coats for everyone from his inventory. They are surprised to see that he uses dimensional magic, as the best hunters who master this magic can usually only take out 2 or 3 things at a time. Hwang demands to know who he is, due to the things he is capable of doing, but Jinwoo approaches her and tells her that he is there because of him, and that he will take care of her, but only if she avoids asking questions. The same goes for the others, not wanting anyone to ask him for anything. At that moment, a large ice bear appears, and the first thing Jin does is change his title to Wolf Slayer, which grants 40% more damage against all animal-type monsters. Meanwhile, Baek arrives at the portal entrance, and due to the difficulty of the mission, hopes that Kim can save everyone. Sang informs him that there is also the hunter Jinwoo, who is level E. He believes that he has gone through a second awakening, but this has not yet been confirmed. At that moment, Dong-Sul arrives to greet them, but Baek asks what he is doing there in their zone. After all, he had gone to the United States. Dong-Sul finds it strange that the portal is theirs and asks if that is true. Then, he questions why a hunter from another guild, referring to Jinwoo, is inside the portal. Dong-Sul says he wants to meet him before he dies in there, since he went through the trouble of coming all the way here. Back to Jinwoo, after defeating the ice bears in the area, he leaves the others comfortably eating their meat. Now he heads to a cave where these monsters inhabit in large numbers. Upon reaching the entrance, he uses the command, appear, causing some knights to emerge from the shadows, the most powerful of them being Igris. Finally, he orders them to attack. His legion is composed of infantry, which regenerates quickly, and mages who handle the ice bears well. Jin thinks he expected less from them upon seeing how strong they are, but one bad thing is that they consume mana quickly. At that moment, what seems to be the leader of the Ice Bears emerges from the cave, easily destroying the Shadow Soldiers, and in a few seconds, lets out a bone-chilling roar, creating a shockwave that destroys everyone, leaving Jin without mana. Because of this, he tells Igris that it's his turn, and Igris begins to advance towards the leader. When the bear leader attacks, Igris uses his incredible agility to dodge the attacks and strikes its vital points precisely. When he finally has it on its last legs, he prevents it from making a final attack by cutting off its head. Jinwoo values his immense power, and opines that if Igris had his sword the whole time, the fight would have ended differently. He also acknowledges that with his current level, he is still weaker than Igris, and congratulates him on a job well done. Here we see Kim's current situation who is at the mercy of the White Elves, with his team completely annihilated. He cannot believe it, as he was about to become part of the White Tiger elite, and although he does not want to surrender, he loses his mind because of the Ice Elves. He makes the decision to flee hastily, quite terrified, which is observed by the leader of the Ice Elves. Once all the Ice Bears are defeated, Jin wastes no time and gives the command, "Rise!" turning the dead bears into his Shadow Soldiers, including their leader. Thus, he gains a large number of monsters under his command. On the other hand, Bayek asks his group how much time has passed, and they respond that about 3 hours, which means they have been there for roughly 3 days. Abasom, Bayek mentions that red portals are considered to be of great difficulty, which is why Dong-Sul believes that Jinwoo must already be dead by now, and that he shouldn't have bothered going there. But there is something that he doesn't understand. If Jinwoo is not a hunter from the White Tiger, how did he enter this dungeon accompanying one of their teams? See? Sang responds that he is an acquaintance of Jin, and it was he who brought him, as he said he wanted to see a sea-level raid. Baek sighs in relief, seeing that this convinces Dong-Sul. Moments later, Dong approaches Sang and grabs him by the neck, asking what he discovered this time, because he knows that he always has a good intuition for finding interesting things. Before responding, Bayek grabs his arm and unleashes his beastly strength, warning that he better let him go. However, Dong says that he is no one to give him orders and that he is a nobody who thinks he's big in a small country. Consequently, both unleash an enormous force, which greatly worries Sang, because they know that a fight between two S-level hunters can be disastrous. The two get carried away by the provocations and launch a powerful attack without the intention of retreating. And now we return to Kim, who, upon entering the forest, is affected by the cold, but believes that if he can get some equipment, he can survive. At that moment, he sees some dead ice bears on the ground, which explains why he hasn't encountered any until now. For a moment he wonders if it was the E-level group, but he quickly dismisses the idea, as they are not strong at all, and convinces himself that it was the Ice Elves, so he decides to leave quickly, terrified. The blow exchanged between Bayek and Dong is, luckily, interrupted by Jingu, who thanks both for holding back their strength at the last moment, as otherwise he would have lost his arms. Then he tells Dong that he doesn't know what he suspects, but he can assure that Jinwoo retook the exam just 2 months ago and has no doubt that he is E-level. He also explains that Dong's brother lost his life while working fighting monsters, and this was confirmed by the surveillance team. However, Dong believes that these investigations are full of gaps and is sure that it's a lie. He says he will go after the hunter Jinwoo, because that way, he has an excuse to take a life. At that moment, he receives a message that puts him in a bad mood. Then after mentioning that Jinwoo has good luck, he withdraws. After some time, Kim finally arrives where the others are, and is astonished to see them so comfortable and warm. He doesn't understand how they manage to survive. He notices that they are using coats, blankets, a tent, and even food. But upon thinking it over, he begins to understand what is happening, and approaches, quite furious, to inform them that his entire squad died because they had no equipment or food. He then asks who hid all this, who took these things, and who was responsible for leading them directly to their deaths. Next, he draws his sword, trying to force the truth out of them, but just before Jinwoo arrives, throwing him to the ground with a blow of his hand that sends him flying. After that, he loudly says, "They can come out, because even if they try to hide, their auras give them away." Seconds later, the Ice Elves appear, and in the center of them is the leader. The leader of the elves refers to the humans as worms. Jinwoo, enraged, asks if he just called them worms, which surprises the leader. of the elves, as he did not expect that he could actually understand. He asks if Jinwoo really knows how to speak the language of the monsters, and Jinwoo is quite surprised by this, assuming it is also the work of the system, since he didn't even know about it. The leader named Barsa thinks it's good that they can communicate, as it saves time, and comments that one of his elves wants to face him. In the blink of an eye, Jinwoo reaches him and cuts off his head, and then tries to attack him, but Baruka blocks his attack, which makes Jinwoo realize that it won't be easy to defeat him. Baruka then asks what Jinwoo is doing among the humans when he isn't even one of them, and upon realizing his reaction, understands that he doesn't even know what he is. Baruka comments that the monsters hear a voice in their heads, telling them to kill the humans, but they don't hear it when it comes to Jinwoo. This is something that Jinwoo intuitively knows are orders from the system, and that it doesn't happen with him because he is the player. Baruka sees no need to fight, and proposes to Jinwoo that they handle this sensibly, and tells Jinwoo to hand over the humans. But as Jinwoo refuses, Baruka points out that Jinwoo is clearly outnumbered. This makes Jinwoo smile and use his power to make his shadows appear. Park believes that this is also his doing. Without further delay, Baruka gives the order for his elves to attack, thus beginning a direct war between both groups. The others decide to flee, as they would only get in the way, but some ice elves try to shoot arrows at them, having been discovered. Hardly, an arrow is shot with Hae-In, when Jinwoo appears before them in an instant, catches them in the air and destroys the elves as if they were nothing. Then, he analyzes his situation, because although his army is invincible, his mana won't last long. Moreover, the boss is more powerful than him, and even fighting together with Igris would be difficult. So he needs something more powerful. At that moment, the two face off and begin exchanging attacks. Although Jinwoo demonstrates great skill in his movements, Baruka remains superior. When they distance themselves, Jinwoo uses his mages to cast a large fireball at Baruka, but he destroys it easily, buying a little time. At that moment, Quinn wakes up and runs towards Jinwoo to attack him, just as Baruka does. What Jinwoo does is use Igris to raise a curtain of snow that blocks Baruka's vision, and right there has Igris kill Kim. Without wasting time, he transforms Kim into one of his shadows, creating a giant tank that repels Baruka. It is at this moment that Jinwoo names him Iron, and after a few brief seconds, he lets out a provocative roar of great power that affects Baruka and makes him focus his attacks on Iron. Iron manages to defend well against Baruka's attacks, despite how powerful they are, which greatly helps Jinwoo use him as a tank. On the other hand, Han asks Park if hunter battles are really like this, to which Park responds that if that were the case, she would never have become a hunter, because this battle is terrifying. Baruka feels dissatisfied with this rival, so he proposes to Jinwoo that they attack the three of them together. Jinwoo accepts the challenge, and with Igris and Iron, they start a fight against him. Despite Baruka being able to give the three of them a hard time, Iron uses his provocative shout again to force Baruka to focus on him. This allows Jinwoo to come from behind and stab him with his dagger, but Baruka manages to prevent the wound from being fatal. When they distance themselves, he warns Jinwoo that underestimating him could be a big mistake. Although Jinwoo acknowledges that he is strong, he cannot say the same about his soldiers. Upon hearing this, Baruka realizes that all his ice elves have been killed, which angers him greatly. Hinobi Yu concludes that if he takes down Jinwoo, all the shadow soldiers will fall. So he goes towards Jinwoo to attack him. What Jinwoo does is throw his dagger, and although Baruka manages to dodge it, he uses his ruler's authority skill, which works like telekinesis, and violently pulls his dagger back to him. Baruka keeps his reflexes sharp and blocks the surprise attack from behind, but the impact destroys his weapon. Without wasting time, Jinwoo orders Iron to hold Baruka tightly so that he is restrained. And then, the mages fire their explosive magic at him. After suffering this attack, Baruka explodes in rage and destroys Iron with his hands, declaring that he will kill everyone. But in a moment of fury, Jinwoo takes the opportunity to reach him, using his invisibility, and stabs him, simply stating that they are done for today. Baruka shouts that this is foolishness, since he is still standing, but in a few seconds, Iron re-emerges, and will crush him violently with his enormous hammer. After that, Jinwoo receives the rewards for having defeated the boss, but notices that Iron starts punching Baruka's body. By stopping him, Jinwoo orders him to control himself, withdrawing a bit exhausted by the way Iram acts. Not knowing exactly what to do, Iram looks at Igris, but he simply avoids him, turning away and leaving. Afterwards, Iram focuses on the shadow mages and starts to celebrate, and they do the same, fearing him greatly. Jinwoo returns to the others to inform them that everything is over and everyone feels very relieved. At this moment, the portal opens and everyone celebrates with joy for having been saved. However, Jinwoo looks at the body of Baruch because he knows that before leaving, he needs to do something important. Here we see Baek, where Sang explains to him that inside the portal approximately a week has already passed. Then, he suggests that Baek can leave, as they will keep him informed about anything that happens. Baek thanks, but refuses to leave. While members of his guild are still inside, he agrees to wait until dawn. Just after saying that, they see people starting to come out of the portal, and Baek is delighted to see that Kim made it. And when he sees Jin coming out alone, he is completely certain that he would come out alive. When the four come out of the portal, it closes, leaving Baek surprised, and he asks Park where the others are, as well as Chul Kim. They apologize with their heads down, and upon looking at them more closely, Baek confirms that only the lower level ones return. Jinwoo tells Han to accompany him and that he will take her home, but Baek stops him by holding his shoulder, saying that there are many questions to ask. Jinwoo tells him that he is very tired and that he can ask whatever he wants to the members of his guild, pushing Baek's hand away. Baek thinks he is an insolent boy for his attitude but decides to make him truly respond, grabbing him with more force. Then, he clarifies that it was not a request, because that day, 6 members of his guild disappeared, and as the person responsible, he needs to ask several questions. Jin partially agrees, but asks him not to forget that he saved the other 2. So the person responsible should be grateful for that, looking at him with a sharp expression. After a few seconds, Baek relaxes and apologizes, acknowledging Jin's point, thanking him for the help. After leaving, Baek asks Park who that guy is, as he is not very sociable. She understands well what he means, and explains that after defeating the boss, Jinwoo's mood changed suddenly. Upon hearing this, Baek tells Sang that he wants this boy working in his guild. Later, Jinwoo arrives at Han's house, who now calls him Jinwoo instead of Song, and thanks him for accompanying her, acting much more friendly than before. When he gets home, he sees that he barely managed to obtain Baruch's dagger as a reward, and doesn't know if this is due to the great difference in attributes, but he used up his 3 attempts to revive him, failing, which was what irritated him the most. As he looks in the mirror, he remembers when he killed Kim, and the frustration begins to build up. He feels the weight of his actions and the consequences of his decisions. Deep down, he knows these choices are inevitable, but he still can't help but question if he really did the right thing. He takes a deep breath and tries to push away the thoughts that bother him. He knew that his goal was more important than any feeling of doubt, and that keeps him focused. Jinwoo prepares for the next steps of his mission, aware that every move he makes now can change the course of everything. He looks at Baruch's dagger and wonders what more he can learn from his victories and defeats. He cannot let his mistakes define him and must use each experience as the lesson to further improve his strength and skills. As he leaves his house, Jinwoo meets with his team, who are ready for the next journey. Each of them has their own goal, but together they are stronger than they ever would be alone. He knows he will need them to face the upcoming challenges. They are his allies. And despite their differences, they know they must unite to achieve their objectives.